You're live.
Hello, everybody. Sorry for the technical difficulties, snafu. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and get started, and I would like to remind everyone to please mute your speakers if you're not going to be talking. That way we won't have as much feedback. So to start off, I'll give a list of where everybody's at. Here joining me in the council chambers is Councilor Jackson, Manager, nope, we've got our financial director, Judy Starkovich, in here. We have Irma Devine, our village clerk, and we have joining us Katina Watson, that's in the audience. In the manager's office, we have Councilor Coughlin, Councilor Letterman, Deputy Manager Ron Senna, and then in the capital projects room, we have Manager Tim, I forgot Tim Dodge's last name, Councilor Eby, and Village Attorney Zach Cook. And via Zoom, we have Councilor Salas, and he's also on the telephone here in front of me, assorted department directors, and I believe Judge Dan Bryant's on the line too. And we'll also have Joe Scott Grubitz. He is also on the Zoom. George Wilford, I see, is on the Zoom. Chris Muirhead, I haven't seen Chris, but he's supposed to be on the Zoom. And Daniel Alsop from Madrell Sperling Law Firm is also on Zoom. So thank you, everybody. We'll go ahead and have a call to order. If you'll join me in a moment of silence, and then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance and the salute to the state flag. So please stand with me. Moment of silence, then the pledge. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico as the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Roll call, please, Ms. Devine.
Mayor Crawford.
Here.
Councilor Jackson.
Here.
Councilor Coughlin.
Here.
Councilor Cornelius.
Here.
Councilor Salas.
Here.
Councilor Letterman. Here. Councilor Eby.
Here.
Okay, thank you, everybody. And I do apologize again for our technical difficulties. By the time we think we've got this figured out, we don't. It's just technology. Okay, we're going to move on. I know people have things to do, places to go, people to see. So item number one is a discussion and possible action on adoption of Resolution 2020-28, a resolution amending the fiscal year 2020 budget, quarter ending June 30th, 2020, for certain funds and application to the local government division, LGD, of the New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration, DFA, for the approval thereof. And I believe that we will move on now to Miss Judy.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilors, in front of you is the final quarter budget adjustment for fiscal year 2020. This adjustment encompasses all increases or decreases to the budget from April 1st through June 30th, 2020, which is our closeout of our fiscal year. Overall, the budget increased among various funds $5,170,373. We'll go ahead and move to the DFA local government division schedule of budget adjustments. It's the sheet that you've seen in the past where it lists out the exact changes in amounts for each fund, breaking it out between revenues, transfers, expenditures, and transfers out. So if you look at that sheet, the first general fund revenues increased by $45,000, and that was for tracking of our COVID-19 supplies. We were actually increasing some of our budget lines throughout the year, but this was the final one in the fourth quarter. So we will see an increase not only to revenues, but expenditures. And that was the only revenue increase for the general fund this quarter. If you go into transfers in, the transfers in to the general fund are mainly from administrative fees. As you recall, most enterprise funds and some special revenue funds pay an admin fee to the general fund, and because actual revenues were over budgeted revenues, there was an actual increase in the administrative fee that the general fund collected to the tune of $125,090. You'll also see a corresponding transfer out in those corresponding funds, SGRT, joint utilities, the treatment plant, and solid waste. As for expenditures, they overall increased $16,791, but that was a combination of increases and decreases. Again, you'll see the supplies for the COVID-19. We also did take the radio station budget of $20,000, and instead of running the radio station through the general fund, we decided to create an enterprise fund. So we actually reduced the expenditures by $20,000 for the radio station and actually transferred the money out to a brand new enterprise fund, which you'll see going forward, which is actually numbered 537. There was some additional need at the senior center when they were doing the roof repair. They noticed some additional work that wasn't included in the original scope. So that amounted to $8,209. So we did reduce the expenditures in general fund by that amount, and you'll see a transfer going out to the intergovernmental grants fund. I also did transfer out the money for affordable housing for the what is that company name?
Chelsea?
For Chelsea as a good faith resolution that was passed sometime early in the year. So you'll see that transfer out going in the general fund. And let's see, that was out. So overall transfers out from the general fund increased by $1,028,209. If you look at STRT, there's the corresponding increase of revenues collected. So all we did was adjust the budgeted revenues closer to actuals. And there was a reduction in expenditures to principal. As I looked at my amortization schedule, it had us paying principal on a debt service each year. However, when we went to actually pay the actual principal and interest now in June, we noticed that I had a wrong amortization schedule, and beginning in fiscal year 2020, we will be skipping every other year and paying principal. So even though we didn't pay a principal in fiscal year 2020, I have to take that 115 and actually pay 2 payments in 2021. So we'll see that going forward. I'm not sure that was just one factor in the debt restructure that happened some years ago. I'm not sure what the benefit was, but we will actually be reserving each year the principal, even though we don't pay it until the following year. Going forward on some other expenditures in SGRT, we increased Greenwell by 168. We added to allocate some monies for Alto Well 2 of 600,000. And then the Eagle Creek Wildfield design came in at $1,051,861. And then the other amount was just to adjust some projects available to cash. So that was just a balancing of the budget. As for transfers out, you'll see the corresponding admin fees going back to the general fund. As far as the special library fund is concerned, I had to budget the Lincoln County grant and the City of Ruidoso Downs grant of $5,000. And they also got a donation of $625 to close off the stairs. So all those revenues actually went into the actual project to close off the stairs to the children's library, and that came in at $20,050. And then we transferred some state and aid grant expenses that had originally been paid out of the general fund to this fund in order to close out that grant. The next fund is the street municipal gas tax. I had double posted an additional MAP funding that we got of $50,000, so I actually had to reduce revenues by $50,000. And then of course, the expenditures increased by $280,889, and that was just adjusting the map and the co-op grants to actual. In the recreation fund, we just budgeted $12,000 in both revenues and expenses to start operations at Grindstone. And then on the next fund, you'll see the corresponding entry from the general fund about the senior center roof increase. And then, of course, we go down to the DWI grant, and we were just adjusting the budget to the actual grant received. He actually received an additional $26,030 over what we had in the budget, and they were going to use that to buy some WatchGuard and radar equipment for the police department. In the GEO bonds expenditures, I was just adjusting my project budgets to the cash available, so I had to reduce the overall expenditures by $96,000. And you'll see the transfer in coming from the general fund for the affordable housing. As far as the general capital improvement fund, you'll see the affordable housing allocation, and then we also purchased the two properties, the Wingfield House at $725,000 and the Meacham property at $710,000. And then I again have to adjust some projects to cash, and that increased the expenditure budgets by $7,493. Going forward to the debt service funds, I was just budgeting the new series 2019 GEO bonds, and the total debt service for that issue was $249,770, which brings us to our enterprise funds. And the first one, it wasn't a big increase to the joint utilities. We just had to increase some expenses by $4,000 to get utility bills through the fiscal year. And again, you'll see the increase in admin fees to the general fund. As for solid waste, due to COVID-19, there was a lot of citizens doing cleanups around their house and getting their houses in order. So there was an increase in green waste. So we had to increase our budget to get the haul off taken care of, and that totaled $20,000. Again, you'll see an admin fee also on solid waste going to the general fund, which brings us to the treatment plant. When we had finished the closeout of PW 181, we had physically created an invoice to the Corps to pay their share of the expenses associated with PW 181, which is the 30% design of the sewer line fee. However, they had told me that they were going to pay their share out of the 15% or the 15% that they pay in admin fees. And I just forgot to cancel out the invoice that we had created. So that is just me creating or zeroing out the invoice that we had created at $66,102. And then their only other increase was the admin fees increase to the general fund. And then you will actually see our radio station fund number 537, and you'll see the transfer incoming to subsidize the startup, and then of course a corresponding increase to expenditures at $20,000. So going forward, you'll see until the radio station can make money, you'll be seeing a subsidy from the general fund to offset the payout of expenditures in the radio station. With that, it was a pretty small budget increase, only $5 million. So at this point, if you have any other questions on some of the changes, I could take those questions. If not, I'd appreciate the passing of the resolution.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Judy, any certain line items they want to talk about?
I do, Mayor.
Okay, go ahead, Rifle.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Yes, Judy, when you mentioned solid waste, the increase of $20,000 for more debris, and maybe this is a Ron question, how did that work? Well, I know we stopped taking green waste to Sierra Contracting, and then signed an agreement with Green Tree Solid Waste to take it. Is that increase due to that with Green Tree charging more?
Yes, and because it was weekend business and some other stuff too, just additional cleanup and trips. But they're nodding their head yes. So,
Okay, that's what I kind of thought, but I just wanted to be sure.
okay. Any other questions? Okay, I think you did another great job, Judy. So now can we get a motion on item number 1?
Mr. Mayor Jackson, I move to adopt resolution 2020-28, a resolution amending the fiscal year 2020 budget, quarter ending June 30th, 2020, for certain funds and applications to the local government division, otherwise LGD, of the New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration, DFA, for the approval thereof.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. That was Letterman. So roll call, please, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Counselor Johnson,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Eby,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Cornelius,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin.
Aye.
All right, thank you, folks. Item number 2, discussion and possible action on adoption of resolution 2020-29, a resolution approving the final quarter financial report for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020, and application to local government division, LGD, of the New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration, DFA, for the approval thereof. And so this goes back to Judy.
Okay, Mayor, councilors, we just finished up talking about budget, so now we'll talk about ending cash balances. And as a state requirement, I'm obligated to create a resolution for the fourth quarter DFA report for ending cash that has to be presented to council. So we will spend our time looking at the Department of Finance and Administration, local government division. We'll be looking at the spreadsheet that shows the beginning cash balance, our revenues to date, transfers, net transfers in, net transfers out, expenditures and adjustments to arrive at an ending quarter balance. So what DFA is looking for on this report is to make sure that we're not overspending our funds individually. So what they're looking for is that the cash plus investments, which is column number 8, they're making sure that balance is positive. And then if there's a required reserve, like there is on the general fund, they're making sure that there's still enough cash balance to cover the reserve that we need to keep. However, we know that we keep an additional 8% on top of the required state. So if you're looking at that ending column number 8, and if you look at the bottom, at the end of the fiscal year, all cash on hand for all funds for the village of Ruidoso totaled $67,776,022. And you can see the individual cash balances starting at the general fund, moving all the way through the risk management and trust and agency. So if you have any particular questions on a particular fund, I could take those questions now, or all I would need is a motion to pass the resolution showing that all our funds have a positive cash balance at the end of June.
Okay, and just a note that we had the internal finance committee
Oh,
met on all of this and met with their approval. Do we have any, go ahead.
I do have a question on the capital projects funds. Is that including the sewer line?
Yes, that
replacement?
includes.
How much of that is that amount of that 30 million left cash balance?
Hold on 1 second, okay? Let me get my other
Thank
sheet.
you.
Sure. And I can, so Councilor Salas, Mayor, you are correct. For some reason, DFA lumps all our capital projects together, which totaled the $30,303 or $303,205. But what makes up that balance is the sewer line, which comes in at $22,322,183. We also have our GEO bond capital improvement project, which totals $2,669,787. And then we also have our general capital improvement fund, which comes in at $5,311,236. You'll remember that the general capital improvement fund is the money that I transfer out of the general fund over our required reserve amount. And that's the money that we have done affordable housing with, we've done Horton with, we'll do the village addition. So all those extra monies, the purchase of the Meacham and the Wingfield house are all coming out of that fund.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Okay, anything else? Okay, awesome. So can we get a motion for adoption of resolution 2020-2029? Something like that.
Mr.
I move that we adopt resolution 2020-29, resolution approving the final quarter financial report fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020, and application to the local government division of the New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration for the approval thereof. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please, Mrs. Devine.
Yes, sir. Counselor Edie,
Aye.
Counselor Cornelius,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman.
Aye.
And just a little side note, we got some information yesterday from the governor's office on some CARES Act grants, reimbursements and things like that. And I just want to let you know they've used the village of Ruidoso again as a marker that we're probably the only community, the DFA said, that has kept track of our expenses from day one. And so staff will be evaluating that later today, and we're getting that application filled out pronto. And then there's also some grant possibilities for local businesses where it looks like that we would be the agent or fiduciary agent on. So we'll be digging into that later today so that we can see what relief and help we can provide. But anyway, just another proud moment for the mayor that the village is doing a great job, and our manager and financial director and those guys are already all over it. So thanks to everybody on that. Samantha was in on it. So there's more names than I can remember, but we've got a great staff. Item number 3, discussion and possible action on adoption of resolution 2020-30, a resolution declaring the intent of the governing body of the village of Ruidoso to explore financing options to provide funds to construct and equip a magistrate court facility. And I think Mr. Dodge, Judy's left, so if you want to come back in, we have a spot right now.
Good morning. I'm operating the mute button over here on this side, so if you don't mind, I'll stay in here.
Okay.
On this item there, we got Judge Bryant, I believe, on the Zoom as well as Scott and Katina, and I believe Katina wanted to start off the presentation if I'm not mistaken.
Is that right? Okay. If you just join us up here at the microphone, we appreciate it. Thanks for being here.
Thank you all. Thank you for having us today. Scott Grubitz will be also giving a brief presentation, giving some updates on the design. He has replaced Luis Campos,
Right.
the AOC facilities manager, and so he's here as well. But I did want to talk about, some of the things. There is a handout, and I think Scott will get more into the handout here. But I did want to talk about some of the new uses of the facility that we've learned going through COVID-19 that we hadn't anticipated. It's actually, I guess the timing ended up being perfect for us because the way we're doing business is changing forever. I mean, we're not going to go back. Well, a lot of things will go back to the old way, but there's, the technology aspect has really opened up doors for us. And so some of the pieces that we had originally incorporated into the building itself are going to be changed somewhat. Like we had a self-help center built in there. it's still going to be used for, I guess, self-help, but in a really different way. We'll have Google Meet stations set up in there. We'll have Carol stations set up with remote participation access kiosks, so to speak. And so people can come in and they'll be able to remote into our self-help center. They'll also be able to do mediations that way. We'll have a separate room, and so there'll be 2 rooms set up with different kiosks. And so somebody getting a divorce, they can actually appear in one room. The other person can appear in a different room, so they're not in the same room. And then they can remote into our mediators. And mediations will be done remotely going forward. Excuse me. And so it's really exciting. People come in for court, we'll have 3 or 4 stations set up in each one of these rooms. People will still have court in Carrizozo, simply because that's where we have, the rest of our facilities. And rather than having to drive down there for many of the hearings, they'll just be able to come to this facility, log into one of these Google Meet stations, and attend their hearing from here without ever having to need to drive to Carrizozo. And vice versa, we're setting those up down there in Carrizozo as well. So if anybody needs to be up here, there's that efficiency now built in. So we're really excited about some of those changes that have, COVID has, really broadened what we do going, and and those changes are here to stay. And so it's exciting we were able to incorporate those early on, because, the stage that we were at. So it is exciting that these changes will be built into what we're doing going forward. With that, I can turn it over to Scott, and he can talk a little bit about the design. I'm sure Judge Bryant has a few words he wants to say.
Good morning. Again, my name is Scott Grubitz, and I replaced Luis Campos as the statewide director. I just want to let you know some key points in where we are with progress and things that have changed and that we want to continue to move forward on. I brought a set of drawings today, updated set of drawings and a complete set of specs. I'm going to leave those with the group to examine at your leisure. Feel free to do that and get back to me with any comments that you may have. Be eager to discuss those with you. I think in looking at the floor plan, can we try this? Okay, so now I'm going to go find it. Bear with me here.
We're fine.
Everyone see that? Everyone can see the plan?
Yes.
We can see it. Perfect. Okay. There were some minor changes that we made. The original drawings and concept that we've been working on included having the mechanical units completely on the exterior of the building. And that would have required a quite massive and extensive amount of exterior exposed ductwork. And after reviewing that, the AOC didn't feel that was appropriate for a court building. And so what we've done, just along the back row there along grid line F, along the bottom of the page, the mechanical units have now been brought indoors. And I believe there's 4 there, and that will, we will not have any exterior ductwork. Not only would that ductwork have been not necessarily aesthetically pleasing, but it would have given a real opportunity for vandals and probably other maintenance issues. And so we see that as a huge improvement. We also included some of the plan changes that Katina had brought forth to the architect over in the court clerk's area. You guys wanted a few more offices and areas in there, broken down compared to the other courtrooms that we're working on. Katina also has some additional changes that she and I are going to go over involving the mediation room and how that will be used in the future so that it provides more flexibility for the building's use. Recently, we had to, the AOC made a very tough decision to terminate our contract with Design Plus, and that was after a lot of head scratching and desire to try to deliver these projects as better projects and more fiscally responsible to deliver better buildings. we're hoping this will, if nothing else, provide a reduction in fees that you guys would stand to benefit from. Just because of the order in which these projects are being submitted, we're hoping for some real savings there. The other thing that was originally included was extensive use of a system that was called dirt walls that in theory provide more flexibility by their ease of rearrangement. And after a long study into that system, not only was the system well over $1 million on a $4 million project, but we didn't feel like it provided that flexibility. And our other thought was that by the time you want to change things, there'll probably be a better system out there. It would be similar to buying a laptop today that you wanted to use 5 years from now. This didn't make sense technology-wise. But the main message that I wanted to bring to you guys today is what we're hoping to accomplish here by doing that and moving forward aggressively is to give you a better building at the same cost on the same schedule. And so what we're proposing is to go back out for an RFP for a new architect on the project. In the interim time, I'm a licensed architect in New Mexico. I'll be trying to complete most of the DD phase so that we don't lose a step here. The original schedule called for design development drawings by the 20th of September, and that's something we feel we can achieve. 50% CDs in the middle of October with final drawings ready towards the end of November. And so we also feel that's achievable too, with the new agreement, with the hopes of starting construction in early February of 2021, and having you guys occupy that building the third week of October in 21. And that's the same schedule we've been working from since day one. Like I said, we don't anticipate any changes based on these changes in strategy that we're proposing. Any questions, anyone?
I think we're good.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Mayor, I'm not sure who wants to present next, but, based upon the construction schedule and anticipated February, we need to start working on the financing mechanism for this. So, I don't know if George or Chris, if you all want to chime in.
This is George. I'll be glad to talk about the handout we sent and let Chris and Daniel get into the kind of legal aspects, if that's all right.
That'll work.
And I had provided a handout. I don't have it where I can share it on the screen. I don't know if Judy or Ron might have it loaded. Hopefully the council has a copy of it individually. But at any rate, if you have it on page 1, it kind of gives the details, working with the court's office, the administrative office, the total project cost, this is not shown there, that we've been using as an assumption is $5,482,000. So therefore, what I show on the handout we provided, yes, sir.
Can you hold on a second so we all get on the same page, or Ron?
Sure.
For now?
I'll have to look for that printout. It is on the part of the packet, that from Hilltop. It is on the laptop. But I'll have to find that. It's an attachment within the line item.
Yeah, if you've got your computer, council, it's under Hilltop right now. And I'm looking for it in the handout, but I haven't found it yet. But it's clear as day on your computer. Has everyone located one yet?
I did.
Okay, Raffles got one. How about you in the manager's office? Y'all got it figured out?
Yeah.
Okay, how about in the project room?
Oh, good.
Okay, go ahead and proceed, George.
Okay. Apologize, I was looking to see if I might have a file I could share. At any rate, we are are assuming net of some funds that are available for design that have already either been expended or dedicated, that the amount for project costs needing to be financed is $5,320,000. We're assuming that that would be secured and payable primarily from the lease payments to be made by the administrative office of the courts. And you'll see, or what is in the package in just a moment, detailed debt service schedule, that the annual payments would be approximately $325,000 per year based on assumptions we've made. The lease payments are subject to annual appropriation by the legislature. And because of that, the village will need to also pledge certain GRT increments as a supplemental security behind the lease payments to protect against potential event of non-appropriation. There we go. So as you'll see, the fourth bullet or so down says the lease payments are subject to annual appropriation. You can stay on that page one. And as I was just mentioning, that we will need to provide a additional or supplemental security in the form of pledge of certain GRT increments. We're recommending that the financing, that application be made to the New Mexico Finance Authority. They have done several prior projects for the court's facilities, and Daniel also can kind of review those. We will not have to go get a bond rating and incur some of the other kind of costs and requirements if we tried to take this out to the public market. As is noted by that asterisk footnote, NMFA had some authorization for financing secured solely by the lease payments. And the problem is, and I've visited with them, and this is what Modrel had already known and assumed, but NMFA's confirmed that that authorization and capacity has been exhausted or virtually exhausted. So therefore, that's the reason that we need, whether we're going to market or going to NMFA, to provide that supplemental GRT pledge. So what we've done is assume, like the other projects that have been done, that there'll be a 30-year lease period and therefore 30-year repayment period or term on the financing itself. We will include in the sizing a debt service reserve fund that's equivalent to annual debt service. And in the event that there is a shortfall in any given year, a draw could be made on that reserve fund subsequently to be replenished, but that keeps the annual payments intact and so on. Also, you'll note at the bottom of the page, we're also going to size in, or assume that what would be sized in is capitalized interest. And what that is the accrued interest on the borrowing, and not to be paid out of pocket, but that amount will have been provided from proceeds to a certain period. And in this case, we're assuming capitalized interest through November of 2021. And as it shows at the very bottom, that'll eliminate out-of-pocket interest payments during that period. This money will provide that, and that'll be the point in time that the building will be occupied and lease payments will begin, so that then the lease payments themselves will provide payments of principal and interest going forward. We might go to page 2. This is a very abbreviated timetable, and as we promised Mr. Dodge and everyone during the finance committee the other day, Modrel and ourselves will work to develop a more detailed schedule and timetable. But what's assumed is that there would be another resolution brought to the council next month, and that would be the formal resolution authorizing application to be made to the New Mexico Finance Authority. In the meantime, we would be working to prepare the application. That needs to be submitted by literally the end of the month or right after their August meeting, so that then it would be eligible to be placed on their board meeting agenda for their September meeting. And there are also at least 2 committees within NMFA that would review it between application and their September board meeting. If NMFA board approves it in September, then as Monroe has laid out, the council would act on an ordinance approving the loan in October. We would establish interest rates, actual firm payments, and all at that point in time. And given the required publications that would need to be made and notices, it's assumed that closing would be in December, or might lapse over into right after the first of the year, hopefully to coincide with when construction would begin as well. Might look at the next page. This is the sources and uses, and kind of describes, or it does describe the sizing that I mentioned. You'll see in bold in the middle of the page that $5,320,000. That's the project costs net that we're assuming. That's one thing I failed to mention. Between now and when the application is finalized to submit to NMFA, we'll work with the administrative office of the courts to make sure that that is still the good number to be used, and make sure we have the correct number and adequate amount applied for. You'll see below that under uses, we've got the debt service reserve fund. In this case, it was calculated at $326,200. Then the capitalized interest, based on the interest rate that's being assumed, $172,000. So those two total $498,283. And then we've assumed cost of issuance, which, since we're not having to go to public market, that would really only be cost for bond counsel and financial advisor, in this case working with NMFA. And so you'll see that the total finance amount in that case would be $5.9 million. And the very last page shows the assumed debt structure. That's the $5.9 million in that principal column, with the principal being paid beginning fiscal year 23. We've assumed a 3.5% interest rate, which quite frankly is higher than market, higher than NMFA rates as it stands. So there's a little bit of conservatism built into this. And based on that, the total payments you'll see in that column labeled total debt service, like I said, $325,000 or so on average per year. You'll notice at the top, those first interest payments, which would extend through mid-year fiscal year 22, would be paid from the capitalized interest fund. But that's the, as it stands now, assumed structure that would be applicable to financing the court's building. Like I said, given the council approving moving forward, then we would work with bond counsel and the city or village to put together the full application. And with that, I'd defer to Chris and Daniel to maybe discuss some of the legal aspects. And also be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Does anybody have any questions of George before we move on to Chris? Okay, I guess not. Mr. Muirhead, it's you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. This is Daniel Alsop. My partner Chris had a conflict this morning and wasn't able to join. Katina and Scott and George have done a great job covering the project and the financial structure for the project. The resolution before you now would give general authorization to continue with the project and is a declaration of the council's intent to pursue the project, and to identify potential GRT financing options for the financing. As George mentioned, if the council is inclined to proceed with the project, we would still need to come back with several additional actions, including a bond ordinance or a loan ordinance, when the final terms of the financing and the loan would be approved. In terms of legal obligations, the village would enter into a lease agreement with the administrative office of the courts. The administrative office of the courts would be obligated to pay the village rent payments in an amount that would be sufficient to pay debt service on the loan. And so the goal would be that the village would not have any out-of-pocket costs, although there would be a pledge of GRT in the event of a non-appropriation. The idea would be that it would be a pass-through to the village. I worked with, I guess, 3 other local governments in the state in the last couple of years on similar transactions that were financed through the New Mexico Finance Authority, and that has sort of become the model for these types of transactions. So it's a pretty well refined model and set of documents. So with that, I'm happy to elaborate on any of the legal aspects of the transaction or the resolution itself, or to answer any questions.
Chris, to your knowledge, has there ever been an instance where there hasn't been legislative appropriation and caused the state to default on those payments?
To my knowledge, there has not been an event of non-appropriation in about, let's see, 2015 or so. Governor Martinez did veto a portion of the budget that provided for AOC's lease payments. That was a really temporary situation and rectified immediately. But there's never been an event of non-appropriation to my knowledge.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, it's 30 years worth. Okay, what do we have up next? Do we just need to go to the resolution? Or did you have something else?
I do.
Okay, does anyone have any other questions or comments? Okay, well then we'll need a motion for item number 3 to adopt the resolution.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I move that we accept resolution 2020-30, a resolution declaring the intent of the governing body of the Village of Ruidoso to explore financing options to provide funds to construct and equip a magistrate court facility.
Second.
Okay, is there any other discussion? And we didn't get to hear from Judge Bryant. Are you there, Judge? Nope. Okay, we'll have no further discussion. We'll have a roll call, please, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Cornelius,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Edie.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, folks. We'll go to item number 4, discussion and possible action on funding requests. Thank you very much for coming down. Funding request to conduct a traffic study to analyze the proposed concept of 3 lanes through Sudworth Drive to present to New Mexico Department of Transportation. And this one right here, I know we've had some discussion. So Samantha, would you like to take this over?
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor and councilors. Good morning. We conducted a survey of the Midtown merchants. We were able to survey 72 merchants, and we had a strong support for the project of 64% that liked this idea and concept. We also requested proposals from engineers to do a design of the 3 lanes that we had conceptually came up with, and Stantec was the lowest proposal at $20,000. So I'll stand for any questions that you all may have of me. I believe Justin Huffman's also here to answer questions.
Okay, first, I know we're looking at the businesses contacted. Did you get a number, either one of you, on approximately or a good number on how many businesses we do have down there?
Yes, we came up with 97.
Okay. So you contacted what, about 80% of them? Did you say there were 70 something you'd contacted?
74% response.
74% response. And
Yes,
so I see on here where we contacted them through completing a survey, contact made. And when you say that, is that in-person contact?
Yes, we went door to door and conducted these surveys. We had them on a tablet, and so they were able to complete the surveys in their own private kind of a setting. We didn't ask them each question. We just showed them the proposal, the length of the project, which is from Chase Street to Pine Road along Sudreth, and then they were able to answer the 3-question survey.
It was from 5th Street, you said?
No, Chase Street to Pine Road.
To Pine Road. Okay, I thought we were going to Country Club, but it's Pine Road. Where's Pine Road?
A little bit past the Buttery.
Oh, just that little bitty right in front of the agency?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Yes, sir, Mr. Dodge?
Mayor, I just wanted to add that the team that went down there and worked in the Midtown District, if they weren't able to contact, they left the door hanger, and then they did a follow-up visit as well. So, you know, there was at least 3 days that they went out there and worked in the district to try to make contact with all business owners.
I think that that was awesome that you really made that much contact with them. So I know you have a breakdown. And so what was the overall percentage? It says positive. Samantha?
Yes, what was that question? I'm sorry.
I was just trying to get a percentage other than just that 69% were positive or whatever, but do you have that data down there? I know I'm trying to go ahead and scroll through the respondents' answers on that, but I'm not able to bring it up.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to do as well. Pull up the responses. I'm sorry about that.
Justin, do you have that information available, or is Matt on there? Matt did a pretty good presentation to the lodgers tax a little bit earlier on this. Is Matt on board online?
Can you repeat that? And there's like a slight delay.
We were trying to get in touch with Matthew or with you, Justin, on the responses or percentages on the survey. You know, just what businesses.
There, I have those here. So the question was, do you support this concept? We had 64% say yes, 36% say no. The second question was, would this concept have a positive impact on your business? 55% said yes, 45% said no. The third question, would you modify your operations plan to include the sidewalk expansion? 47% said yes, 53% said no. And the last question was open-ended responses.
So the businesses that said they would expand to sidewalk operations, were they a diversified group, or was it, I know I can see where the restaurants or those type of places, breweries, wineries, which want to do that, but what about just regular retails? Did you see any of those?
Yes, just in talking with them, I was out surveying as well. We had retailers interested. Of course, places like the soap stores would not be. If the guy said we'd have a giant bubble bath going down Sudworth, but there were individuals that were interested in setting up out on Sudworth that were retailers as well.
Okay.
But we definitely, go ahead, Justin.
All I was going to say is when we look at the survey, and that second question is kind of deceptive because what we saw was businesses saying, yes, we're willing to support this if it helps my neighbor. So, you know, if it helps one of my neighbors stay in business, we're willing to support it. The second question, not everybody was going to utilize the additional space. And that's kind of where that second question skews a little bit. The other thing is when we were out, we didn't know at the time that we were going to be able to add diagonal parking. Had we really been able to press that point as well, I actually think our survey would have gone up tremendously. There was already quite a bit of support, but with the diagonal parking added to this concept, I think that we're going to, you know, we'll see a lot. There would have been a lot more support in terms of that as well. So. Overall, I felt like everybody was most people were willing to do whatever we could to help the fellow neighbors that maybe don't have enough outdoor space to accommodate.
See the diagonal.
I think a lot of the retailers realized that if these shoppers were leaving the district to go eat, that they would not be returning back. So they want to do everything it takes to keep everybody down in the Midtown district.
I think it's important too, the lodger's tax unanimously, we didn't have a vote today, but unanimously spoke in favor of this, supporting this. Becky Brooks also said that the chamber unanimously supported it, or that she as the chamber, representing the chamber, they supported it and thought it was a good idea. So those came up in our lodger's tax meeting, and I wanted to share that with you and the council.
Okay. But I'm looking at a lot of comments about fear of more congestion, comments about the horse carriage. Right here says, you know, I'm just reading them. The Mercantile says, please don't close road past Country Club. Taking the parking from merchants will be bad. Please don't waste tourism dollars on that. You know, I'm getting a lot of them that the idea they're excited about looking at what options are. So I think the parking you're talking about will need to be addressed, and then a clear-cut description and plan on how we'll handle deliveries from, you know, beer trucks, food trucks, and UPS and everyone else. But that's what I see most of the comments from, is that they're all about trying to do something, but they're very worried about traffic. So that'll be a key part of this whole thing study.
Well, and then some of them say they're looking for a year-round plan. One talks about during the winter and the snow. You know, do we have an idea of how long we're looking at implementing this plan? Like till October, November, December, January?
I'm sure all that would be studied, and the recommendations would come as part of the traffic study.
Okay.
So that will be a recommendation for this whole plan. So what we're looking at is a traffic study, a lane study with being able to have additional parking, because I know just the calls that I got yesterday and this weekend was, most of it was, we're going to be taking up existing parking. Businesses are now putting tents in their parking lots. So that's adding pressure to the already mediocre parking that we have. So all these things will be addressed in this plan. Correct? Yes.
The other thing that's gonna be addressed in the study is wayfinding signage as well.
Okay. And then of course huh?
How long do we anticipate the study to take?
Mayor, council, the Stantec is committed to get this done within a week after approval from the governing body. And our intent is to bring it back to the August meeting for, council to review.
Now, is Stantec the company that we hired, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, Raffle? Do you remember? Joe?
I believe so. They were.
I got a comment on this.
Yes.
Example one, we had the Midtown realignment.
Right.
Mexico Department of Transportation came in and they offered 7, I think 5 different time to Midtown. Of course, three-lane traffic was discussed. That was put before for public input and also their DOT studies when they did the traffic studies during all different seasons. So they did do a traffic study, and of course, then with the interviewing of different merchants and residents. And this particular idea was nixed then because of the traffic flow issues. It's just as JR, when he was the utilities director, stated that this is, you have to build a 4-lane highway for just as seasonal use, even though you have some parts of the year you only need 2 lanes. But you have to have that system in place for the influx of people. There were talks about closing down Midtown, making it a 3-lane, and that's why we got the configuration that we have now, is that this proposal or this idea was not deemed feasible at the time. So I don't know if there is a change of heart in as far as the merchants and so on, but I can see that in the long run, especially with the center lane being used by carriages for deliveries and such, and then you have 1 lane going either direction for your traffic, that in the end, I just don't see how it's going to, I think it's just the same concerns as it were back then, because topography, demographics, nothing has changed really.
Well, except for the whole world, I mean, that's what we're talking to us about, is what options can we do to help support these businesses? And that's why they're even considering it now, because we do know that we looked at this before and we ended up with what we've got as the best. But some of these businesses are looking for additional options. And I think that's the whole point of what we're doing.
I think, sure, if they could address parking where people could actually get down there, then that would be a major plus for it, to actually look at this and move forward. But I'm not opposed to doing a study of it.
Mm-hmm.
So Justin made some kind of mention about diagonal parking, but the proposed lane change diagram that we have doesn't indicate that there's even enough space to do any type of parking, because we're going to provide business patio area 6 feet and then a pedestrian walkway, and then you've got 2 driving lanes in the center lane, which totals 36 feet. So was that just an idea, or would that have to mean completely changing this that's in front of us?
Counselor, that was an idea that would be looked at within the study. Down subject, there's a couple of areas that may not be utilized by either restaurants or retailers that may lend itself to creating diagonal parking. So that would be evaluated within the study.
And this map doesn't actually show the existing parking there.
Right.
So if you did diagonal head-in parking on the existing parallel parking, you should be able to get more cars in there.
Yeah, and as long as they're able to back up and not into somebody.
They'll be there all
Hey, that'll help the business down there.
So, here's my thinking. Like Joe indicated, we went through this once before. I mean, they went through meeting after meeting after meeting and all these different things. In the end, nothing happened. So to me, I think that the only one that stands to benefit out of this is gonna be Stantec. $1,000 to do a study. And we already did a study once before and determined that there's not really anything we can do to Midtown to make it better. And now I think we're trying to cram too much into a defined space. So I think what's gonna end up happening is if we approve this, we're gonna go through paying them $20,000 and we're gonna come back and say, well, we can't do anything. Because we've already done that, when was it, a couple of years ago? We went through that whole Midtown study.
Mayor, how are we gonna, to slow the traffic down? I know it'll only be one way for each lane, but, working Riddle's safe. I can't tell you how scared I am every weekend with the traffic. It's amazing how fast people go. Yeah, the congestion, and this will even create more congestion. It's not that I'm against this, but I really am concerned about the traffic, about people crossing the street. There was a good comment about the buses and that new in Albuquerque, where they've got the buses running and then the cars, and then you've got the horse, and they do have a lot of accidents and a lot of pedestrians killed. So I do worry a little bit about that with just the traffic issues.
Counselor, in this study, they're gonna be looking at different opportunities to do some traffic calming. There will probably be some added crosswalks and stop signs on both directions where you could have traffic flowing. There's several different communities that have demonstrated that this type of a concept works. Red River is probably one of the prime ones that I know of here in New Mexico, where they do exactly this type of a plan during their busy season. In addition to that, you would have some relief routes that you would try to encourage through wayfinding signage for vehicles to take that don't want to go to Midtown.
This is Justin speaking. I'm sorry.
Mayor, members of the council, this plan, also this traffic control plan, is required by, if that's the way we want to move, by the Department of Transportation. They've been very supportive of doing this type of plan. So they would be to make the final decision on it, and they would also provide any support we need on it. I mean, so we'll like Tim mentioned earlier, we're looking at a week to have the traffic control plan completed and submitted to the Department of Transportation.
Okay.
Will they be getting all that data from the DOT from their last studies down here, of traffic through Midtown? Because they've got to have some sort of data to be able to submit a plan.
Okay. Justin, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, I was just going to say that, I think with this particular project, we do have a very substantial support of the Midtown merchants who it directly impacts. I think that with the rerouting of some of the traffic, that's going to help mitigate some of the through traffic. I myself office in Midtown. My office overlooks Midtown, and I see a lot of through traffic that could be rerouted on Wingfield and Rio. So I think that that's a practical solution. It's just a training phase of do we train our residents? Do we train, get people used to actually rerouting around it? The other concern I have that echoes Councilor Butterman's is use these families running across the road right now, and I would like to see a more pedestrian friendly area that short-term resolves some of our problems with patio access and stuff for the merchants that don't necessarily have it. But ultimately, I think if this thing could potentially work as a long-term viable solution. We have to think about, with COVID, we're not going to be able to have special events, but is there a potential to utilize this traffic study to segue into doing some sort of outdoor events in Midtown that will allow us to do those events in a COVID-safe way? The other thing is we're going to gain about 20,000 square feet of additional pedestrian foot space, which helps encourage social distancing. We've seen other communities like Tim Dodge mentioned in Red River. Durango actually did this with some quite a bit of opposition. And since it's been implemented in Durango, they've actually added more. They're calling more cutouts in Durango for businesses to set up. And what they've realized in Durango, and what we've seen with our business is now more people are congregating in front of the businesses. So you're having outdoor patio space out front, which creates more vibrant pedestrian atmosphere. So we've actually seen our sales increase in Durango as a result of them doing creative placemaking for people in a COVID safe way. So I just wanted to add that.
Are there any other comments? Because it for sure will be a controversial issue, because we have visited it before, but times have changed. And some of the faces in the business, Joe, have changed down there too. And, people are a little more open to new ideas. So, I just like the idea that we're actually looking at some ideas on what we can do. And I do know that some of the statements that Stantec made on there, it's like, I don't know how you can provide a lanes going either way and then a center lane for deliveries and the horse carriage, and we're going to improve walking and all this other stuff. I know it sounds a little chaotic, but I think that just moving forward with the idea, and then of course it could still get shot down, and like Coughlin said, it may just be $20,000 that we're giving to Stantec, but before it was put on by DOT, and I thought Stantec was part of it, and there was just not, people are still sore about parking, and the ones that have parking spaces want to protect it with your life, and so those things are going to have to be considered. We're going to have to be able to show a benefit, or at least a good plan for benefit. Does anybody else have anything else?
I'm just going to make a comment before we vote, is that, I know, of course I brought up what were the results a few years ago when they came up with this, but as stated, the times have changed, and maybe people's ideas have changed, and I want to thank Justin and everybody for putting their work into this and taking an initiative to try to do something, or at least address the issue and shed some light on it, or do something about it. So with that, I would have to say that I'm probably a little negative as far as the actual concept as I see it now, but I'm willing to go ahead and following with the effort to go ahead and move forward on the study. And who knows, I could be swayed in the future.
Mr. Mayor, this is Jackson. I'm going to open this up to anyone who wants to respond. I'm trying to go through the responses and kind of get a gist of what people want or don't want. Most, I guess, conceptually agree that this would be an improvement, 2/3. But then when they say, will it have a positive impact on your business? It's 55% yes and 45% no. But then when they ask them, would you modify your operations plan to include the sidewalk expansion, it flips the other way. 47% yes and 53% no. Now, does that just reflect the types of businesses that would be more likely to utilize it than those that would not?
Counselor, I believe, yes, that's exactly correct. Some businesses would not want to expand out onto the sidewalk and use that area. And, my understanding of it is, but they're not opposed to their neighbors doing that. So.
Mayor, it's John.
Yes, sir.
I think with some of the restaurants having basically sidewalk cafes, and it could become a real interesting downtown. A lot of the shops aren't gonna wanna put stuff in and out or deal with the weather, I don't think, so they probably wouldn't do it. And I think it will be congested for a while, but like most of us anyway, we don't drive through downtown if we're in a hurry, and you can use Wingfield and Rio. So if we'll mark those, I think it's
I think the restaurants, you know, they're gonna expand out on the sidewalk, and I think we need to make more options available. You know, I went to K-pop the other night for dinner, and it was really nice sitting outside on their table, you know, the wooden bench. It was really nice doing that, so I appreciated that. However, how efficient is this gonna be when we're looking at the restaurants in Midtown? If they're gonna be allowed to put tables out on the sidewalk with distancing, and if they're serving alcohol, they're gonna have to put a little fence around or whatnot. What are they gonna be able to get? 4 tables, maybe? Maybe 5 if it's got a wide enough storefront? I just don't know, you know, and then, you know, like Jackson mentioned, there's not a lot of people that would partake of the opportunities that this will create. So I don't know. I would love to see something happen, but I just don't know that it's going to be feasible.
And it will be happening, I don't think, in the winter. You know, the north side of the sidewalk gets a lot of sun, but the south side doesn't. And so, you know, we have to have the sidewalks clear to get the snow blowers in there. So
Right.
I don't know if this is just planned on being spring and summer, or just, you know, what is it going to be? And I guess that's what this study will have to tell us, because the sidewalks are in pretty bad shape, some of them anyway. But, you know, there's a lot to be, you know, there's going to have to be a lot of concerns taken and a lot of information gathered to get a really good report.
And I think that, you know, it almost seems like you're going to have to put up, you know, those concrete barriers that they use for construction to keep the traffic off the, you know, if somebody cuts in front of them or whatever, they're going to veer off and go up on the sidewalk or into that walking area that's going to take up part of the lane. I don't know. So I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
So I'll move to approve funding request to conduct a traffic study to analyze the proposed concept of 3 lanes through Sutter Drive to Presence to New Mexico Department of Transportation. Present, okay.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Counselor Conklin,
No.
Counselor Letterman,
Yes.
Counselor Eby,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Cornelius,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson.
Aye.
Okay, so you got those all recorded. Item number 5, thank you, everyone. Okay, item number 5 is discussion and possible action on surveys prepared by Research and Polling Inc. to poll Ruidoso residents on their support of future use of the Links Golf Course and the Grindstone Canyon Recreation Area. And so I know there's been a lot of work put into that, and we've had some volunteer committees from the public, and we appreciate that. Thanks, Tim, for putting that all together. So Rodney Griego is going to present this.
Good morning, councilors and Mayor Crawford. As you mentioned, we put together 2 committees from representatives from the community who or a mixture of business owners or persons who utilize those areas, and it was a mixture. So like for the leagues, it was some people who golf, and it was some people who just have families and enjoy other recreation. So the two surveys, initially we reviewed all the criteria of what we were trying to poll the community on. The committee members were given opportunities to voice their opinions. Research and polling came back with 2 different drafts. They were reviewed with the committees, and the drafts that you have with this presentation today are the final, or being presented as the final drafts for your review and approval. I'll entertain any questions that you may have regarding the 2 different surveys or the process.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to add that, you know, the methodology that they're going to use is actually a direct mailing. We've had research and polling create a list of, you know, all the property owners within the county and identify those. You know, the way the mailing is going to work is we're going to be able to identify the property owners and then tenant on the property if they do respond as well. In addition to that, we're going to be putting on online survey as well. And then there's some controls that we're going to be building into that so that we can spread the information out and really analyze the information as it comes in. We're going to do about a 2-week marketing campaign prior to releasing this. So we're going to send out quite a bit of information before the survey goes out so that people are aware of it. This is really an effort to try to engage the public in these 2 subjects. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, I appreciate it. And a lot of effort's gone into this, and I think it shows. Does anyone else have any comments or questions?
Yeah, I'm there.
Go ahead.
Just on the residency areas where they're asking, I think on the lakes it's full-time or part-time, but also on the drive zone, I believe that there should be just a little subsection in each one on a full-time. You could ask how long you've been a resident. And then also, I believe that if they are a full-time resident here, if you just ask subdivision or general area that they live, because that would give us more of an idea of what type of answers you're getting from a certain area, to break it down a little bit more. And also on your part-time residents, you might ask what state and how many months are they a resident in Reynosa.
Manager, do you have any comment on that? Manager Dodge?
I was having a little bit of technical difficulty here, Mayor.
Okay.
But, I actually like that input. You know, I wish we would have put Joe on the committee.
Right.
But yes, we can take those points, Mayor, and visit with Brian. But you know, I actually think those are pretty good points that, you know, we can incorporate into it.
Okay.
And Tim, you mentioned something about property owners within the county, but when we first met, the intention was just to be property owners or water bills for village residents, correct?
I apologize if I said county within the village. You're correct.
So we're just really looking for responses from people that own property or have water bills within the village, which would indicate that they actually have a residence here.
That's correct, and that survey will go out to the residents of Ruidoso. The online survey, if somebody responds that is not a resident, they'll have filters to be able to make that determination.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. Then, if there's no other questions and everybody kind of has firm grasp on it, we just need a motion. On item number 5?
Mayor,
Okay, I got Salas.
yeah, I'll make the motion, to approve action on the survey prepared by Research and Polling Inc. to poll Ruidoso residents on their support of future use of the Links Golf Course and Grindstone Canyon Recreation Area.
Jackson, second.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, none being, we'll have a roll call, please, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Cornelius,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Edie.
Okay, thank you, folks. Item number 6, discussion and possible action on award of IFB number 2020-010B to Roper Construction, Inc. and Aggregate Technologies, LLC for aggregates. And this one goes to, who's doing this one, Commander or?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead, John.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, councilors. The purpose of this invitation for bid was to obtain a contract and set pricing for various sizes of aggregates used by our street department. And it was published in 3 newspapers on June 12th with a bid deadline on June 29th. And we received 2 bids, one from Roper Construction and one from Aggregate Technologies. And we recommend awarding to both to ensure an adequate supply of our aggregates.
Okay.
Any questions?
Yeah, I think everybody seems pretty well satisfied. Does anybody, one last chance for questions or comments?
So on the bid report, I'm not seeing any actual bid amounts.
It should be on the last page.
It's 3 pages and there's nothing there.
Okay, Roper Construction did overall have the lowest prices, and I can send out a revised copy with the bid prices attached.
And are these the 2 companies that we're currently using?
Yes.
Because I know we've done the split agreements before.
Never used Roper.
Yeah, we've been purchasing some from Roper, but they were not part of the previous agreement. They are fairly new to this business, and Josh has stated he likes the product they are providing.
Yes, sir. On that, I do like the product on that. The crushed granite that they're providing, it was when we were previously with Ruidoso Sand and Gravel, we were getting that product from them, and they're in the same place. And the faceting on the rock and just the way the rock works out, it's a good rock. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Appreciate that, Josh. I was still looking at.
Just making sure.
Yeah. Does anybody remember what we're going to be paying? Because I'm with Coughlin. I don't see anything.
Mayor,
Yes.
John Commander, can you pull it up on your screen real quick? I believe John could do a screen share, Mayor.
Okay.
I think we just got the template uploaded and not the actual bid.
Bear with me a second.
Okay, you got it.
Okay, everybody see my screen? There we go. Hey.
Yeah, yep.
We asked them to submit prices for delivery and for us to pick up. The two columns on the left are Roper Construction, the two on the right is Aggregate Technologies. What price point is it in our favor to pick rather than have it delivered? Josh, can you answer that?
Mayor, members of the council, it's at the price point right now. I mean, we don't have with the map and co-op projects going on, we don't have the trucks to actually go and pick it up if we're working on our roads. At a point where if we do slow down, it would be best for us to go pick it up, in which we have done in the past. And that was one of the things with AgTech is they were more expensive, but it was the same price for delivery as it would be to be picked up. And with this, I mean, Roper's a little more expensive for delivery, but
it doesn't bear out. It looks like Roper's cheaper on delivery too.
yes, sir. That's he's on delivery, and I believe he was like 25, 35 cents cheaper on delivery also.
Yeah, there's only one item where that's Andy Filler, where he's 25 cents a ton higher for delivered, but other than that, Roper's cheaper on delivery than Ag.
Yes.
That's what I'm understanding. We'll get clarification. So are we to understand that we would be buying from Roper initially, since it is less expensive, unless they were out of that particular item, then you'd go to Aggregate?
Yes, sir. And I mean, and with that being said, also, I mean, we'd save on our fuel costs and be able to haul more with Roper just being just north of town as compared to going all the way to between Tularosa and Alamogordo to get our aggregates.
Okay. So Aggregate wouldn't have it here locally like they do now. We would have to go get it in Alamogordo, basically.
Yes, sir. We have had them do both, but if we are going to pick up, we could get a hold of AgTech and see if they could bring it up here so that they have it in stock. But the amount that we usually purchase at a time is more than what they would have in stock here.
Okay, gotcha. Any other questions?
So Josh, I see the one item on there, sand seal aggregate. Neither one of them bid on it. Is that an issue for us? Do we use that product?
No, sir, we had put that in there to see, but we have tried in the past with a little bit of microsurfacing. We just started that. The sand seal is actually, we don't have the equipment to put down the sand seal itself.
Okay. So that won't affect us then?
Yes, sir. It won't affect us.
Mayor, do you need a motion?
Yes, ma'am. If we're through discussing, you just fire it off.
I move that we accept the award of IFB number 2020-010B to Roper Construction, Inc. and Aggregate Technologies, LLC for aggregate.
Okay. Who was that? Who was the second?
Coughlin.
Coughlin, got it. Okay. Roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Cornelius,
Aye.
Counselor Eby,
Aye.
Counselor Salas.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, folks. Now we'll move on to item number 7 is discussion and possible action on award of IFB number 2020-001B to Holly Frontier Refining and Marketing, LLC, to supply specified asphalt oil. John?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor and councilors. This is a similar invitation for bid as the aggregates. It's to obtain a contract and set pricing for PG 70-22 asphalt oil. It was published in several regional newspapers, and we received one bid from Holly Frontier Refining and Marketing, and we have not been able to locate any other suppliers of this specific asphalt oil in the state. So we do recommend awarding the contract to Holly Frontier Refining and Marketing.
Have we compared that $558.03 a ton to what is going on in other states? Is that about norm?
I have not, Josh, do you know?
Mayor, Council, I have not compared it to the other states. I do know that with this last bid, I mean, that was just a little bit higher than what we were paying before, but for them to lock in at that price, I think it was $10 a ton higher. But for them to lock in on that price for a year contract with the fluctuation of oil, with the way the prices go up and come down, I do feel that this would be a fair price.
Okay, is there any other comments or questions?
Mayor,
Yes.
Ron, do you recall, you're looking to different alternatives or different oils and different pricing. We're looking at Grindstone. Do you recall the different pricing that you got? I know that you looked at Arizona or a couple other areas.
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, on this oil here, going back to this, Holly has they have the market within the state of New Mexico, and the only oil that I had talked to, the other company, they don't provide this type of asphalt oil. It's more oil for fog sealing and for other types of application on roadways. But this material that Josh uses, Holly, only company in New Mexico that offers that oil, and the Department of Transportation and other contractors, they do have projects. This is where they're getting their oil from.
Okay, so the answer was no, we didn't compare Arizona or?
No, going back to that, Mayor, no.
Okay.
But I can check with a vendor in El Paso. I would call a vendor there possibly would have this type of oil, but I haven't checked into that, no.
Okay. So what we're faced with is we have one bidder, and And Josh, I mean, do we know how much more? You said it was a little bit more, but I don't know. And how much of this stuff do we use a year? Do you know, Josh?
That I would have to go out and pull everything up. But I know once we get our projects rolling and we were paving, we use quite a bit of it a year.
I mean,
give me just a second if you need to. I can look that up real quick.
Well,
I can also.
Well, it would just help if we use 20 tons or we use 200 tons, or I just didn't know if it maybe would give the council an idea.
Sir, it's our tank. We can make 550 tons out of a tank of our asphalt oil, and I mean, we fill that up. We can go through that pretty quick. I mean, that's like when we did the map project over here. I mean, we used, hold on just a second. What did we pave on the? On our map project for Mescalero and Junction, we did a PO for 59,000 gallons. Or 59,000 tons, right? But how much oil was it?
Well, I can.
Okay, hold on just a second. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's all right. I was just curious. So last year we spent one invoice was for 59,000, and the other one was for how much?
59,000 and what?
42,000.
And one for 59,000 and one for 42,000, and that was
172 tons.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
59,000 works out 105 tons of 558 a ton.
Yeah.
And the map project was, it was right at 1,000 tons.
Okay.
Or just a little more, because we did almost 1,000 tons on it. Okay. Yes, sir, we're still pulling that up, but it was just over 1,000 tons for the map project.
Okay. All right. That gives us, yes, sir.
Josh, if you could provide that kind of an update and an FYI this coming week.
Yes, sir, I sure can.
You okay with that, Mayor Council?
Yeah, I think that'll be fine. I know we've got to have it. I know with the oil business and what I was told was a triple chain hydrocarbon, and it doesn't fluctuate as much as the price of gas is what I was told. So, okay, does anybody else have another comment or question? Okay, if not, does somebody want to proffer a motion?
Jackson, Mr. Mayor, move to approve an award of IFB 2020-011B to Holly Frontier Refining and Marketing LLC to supply specified asphalt oil.
Second.
Okay, that was Cornelius.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments? None? Roll call, please, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Counselor Jackson.
Aye.
Counselor Cornelius.
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin.
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
Counselor Letterman.
Aye.
Counselor Salas.
Aye.
All right, thank you, folks. I don't see any further business. And if there's none, having completed the agenda, we will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mayor Copeland.
Thank you, guys.